everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that sent chills down my spine. It's a tale that blends the familiar nostalgia of returning home with a creeping sense of dread and the unsettling allure of the unknown. Imagine stepping back into your childhood, only to find something sinister lurking beneath the surface, something tied to the yearly arrival of a peculiar circus. This isn't your typical big top, folks. In this story, everyone who enters this circus disappears. Get ready to explore a town where memories turn ominous and a circus with a dark secret holds a terrifying power. Buckle up, because this one is going to take you on a ride into the shadows. Let's get into it.
Being back in my hometown felt surreal, like stepping into an old photograph. The colors slightly faded, but the memories still vivid. I had returned to visit family after years spent chasing dreams and failures in the big city. The sun hung languidly in the sky, casting golden rays over the quaint streets where I had grown up. But unlike my childhood, the air now felt thick with an unsettling weight, something ungraspable hiding just beneath the surface. "Are you going to the circus?" my younger sister, Lily, asked one evening as we sat on the porch, baskets of homegrown vegetables at our feet. "The circus? You mean that creepy one that rolls in every year like clockwork?" I chuckled, recalling the faded posters and odd performers the townsfolk whispered about. "Yeah, it's supposed to be even spookier this year. You should go for old time's sake." A feeling brewed within me, a mix of nostalgia for my childhood and an unsettling curiosity. I remembered how, as a kid, I would peer through the rusted gates, wide-eyed and breathless, terrified yet yearning to enter. That night, unable to shake the yearning for youthful thrills, I decided to honor Lily's suggestion. I donned a light jacket against the evening chill and made my way towards the town square, where neon lights pulsed in a grotesque display. The air was thick with the scent of popcorn and burning oil. As I approached, the colorful tents came into view. Black and red stripes whipped in the wind like a warning flag, yielding an unsettling charm that was seductive yet foreboding. I stepped inside, slipping past the entrance flaps that seemed to swallow the light. The atmosphere changed instantly. It felt like walking into a different world, a realm where time had forgotten to keep count. The interior of the circus was a paradox of chaotic joy and lurking dread. Bright lights illuminated a large ring where a juggler tossed knives with an unnerving nonchalance, and a magician pulled flower bouquets from thin air with a flourish. Yet, for every smile that flickered across a face, shadows lurked just out of sight, whispering reproachful secrets. I wandered deeper, drawn by the peculiar sounds and sights. The laughter of circus goers mixed with an uneasy thrum of the unknown. I passed games that promised prizes too good to be true, and my eyes fell upon a tent that seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. Drawn by an irresistible pull, I approached the pulsating tent. It wasn't visually different from the others at first glance, crafted from the same striped canvas, but it throbbed with an unseen energy. The red and black fabric seemed to breathe, inhaling the ambient light and exhaling shadows that danced against the tent walls. A sign, written in a script that looked both ancient and unsettlingly modern, hung askew above the entrance flap. "Madame Nocturne, seer of fortunes, weaver of destinies." A wave of unease washed over me. Fortune tellers were cliché, a staple of every circus, but something about this tent radiated a genuine disquiet, a sense that this was more than just cheap theatrics. Against my better judgment, curiosity overriding caution, I pushed aside the heavy velvet flap and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the garish brightness outside. The air within was thick with the cloying scent of incense. My eyes slowly adjusted to the gloom, revealing a small circular space draped in heavy, dark fabrics. Tapestries depicting grotesque figures and swirling celestial bodies adorned the walls, their details lost in the shadows, but their menacing presence palpable. In the center of the tent, behind a small, ornate table draped in a black velvet cloth, sat a woman. Madame Nocturne. She was older than I expected, her face a roadmap of wrinkles etched deep by time and untold stories. Her eyes, however, were startlingly vibrant, bright pools of amethyst that seemed to pierce through me, seeing more than I was comfortable revealing, even to myself. She wore a long, flowing gown of deepest midnight blue, adorned with silver embroidery that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Her fingers, long and slender, were adorned with rings of tarnished silver and dark stones. A single oil lamp flickered on the table, casting eerie shadows that danced across her face and the strange objects scattered around her. Tarot cards with unsettlingly vivid imagery, crystal balls that seemed to hold swirling nebulae within, and bones, yes, definitely bones, arranged in cryptic patterns. "Welcome, traveler." Madame Nocturne's voice was low and resonant, like the echo of a distant bell. It held a strange accent, something vaguely Slavic, yet tinged with an unnerving otherworldliness. "You have a question from the threads of fate, yes?" I swallowed, the air suddenly feeling heavy in my lungs. Just curious," I stammered, feeling foolish for even stepping inside. "I haven't seen a fortune teller in years." A slow, knowing smile stretched across her lips, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Curiosity is often the doorway to destiny, young one. Come, sit. Let us see what the cards have to say." She gestured to a small, velvet cushion across the table from her. Hesitantly I sat. The cushion felt oddly cold, almost damp. Madame Nocturne's gaze remained fixed on me, intense and unnerving. She picked up a deck of tarot cards. The images on them were disturbing, grotesque figures intertwined with symbols I couldn't decipher. They were far from the cheerful, cartoonish decks I had seen before. "Tell me," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "what brings you to this peculiar circus?" "Nostalgia, I guess," I replied, trying to sound casual. "I used to come here as a kid. It's different than I remember." "Different, yes," she echoed, her smile widening again, this time carrying a hint of something sharp, like a predator's grin. "Time changes all things, does it not? Even circuses. Especially circuses." She began to shuffle the cards, her movements fluid and practiced. The cards seemed to whisper as they brushed together, a low, rustling sound that prickled the hairs on the back of my neck. The lamp flickered again, plunging the tent into deeper shadows for a moment, and in that brief darkness, I thought I saw the tapestries on the wall shift, the grotesque figures seeming to writhe. "Pick a card," she instructed, spreading the deck face down on the table. Her amethyst eyes gleamed in the lamplight, watching me intently. My hand trembled slightly as I reached out and selected a card at random. I turned it over. It was the death card, but not as I'd ever seen it depicted. This was no skeletal reaper on horseback. This was a creature of shadow and bone, wreathed in thorny vines, its eyes glowing with malevolent violet fire. My breath hitched. Madame Nocturne chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "Ah, death! Not an ending, young one, but a transformation. A shedding of the old to make way for the new. In this circus, however," her voice dropped to a sibilant whisper, "death is more literal." A cold wave washed over me. I wanted to get up, to leave this tent and its unsettling occupant, but I felt strangely rooted to the spot, caught in her gaze, trapped by a morbid curiosity. "Tell me," I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, "what do you mean?" She leaned closer, her face inches from mine, her breath carrying the scent of incense. "This circus, the Cirque Dance Mort, it is not like others. It feeds, young one. It feeds on the town, on its shadows, on its secrets." "Feeds?" I repeated, my mind struggling to grasp her words. "Yes, feeds. On the despair, the fear, the forgotten dreams. It draws them in, like moths to a flickering flame, and consumes them. Her eyes narrowed, focusing on something beyond me, something only she could see. And you, young one, you have brought something for it to feast upon. My heart pounded in my chest. What are you talking about? The past, young one. The regrets you carry, the burdens you bear. They are ripe, juicy fruits for the Cirque Mort. It smells them on you. It tastes them in the air around you. Her words were chilling, nonsensical yet terrifyingly resonant. My past was a landscape of mistakes and missed opportunities, regrets that gnawed at me in the quiet hours of the night. Had coming back here, to my hometown, somehow amplified them, made me vulnerable to this? Suddenly, the sounds from outside the tent seemed to fade, replaced by a low, rhythmic drumming that vibrated through the very ground beneath me. The air in the tent grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen, to coalesce into darker, more defined shapes. The dance begins, Madame Nocturna whispered, her eyes widening with an almost ecstatic gleam. The Cirque Mort awakens. A wave of panic surged through me. I stood abruptly, knocking over the velvet cushion. I have to go, I stammered, backing away from the table. Madame Nocturna didn't try to stop me. She simply watched, her amethyst eyes burning into me, a knowing, predatory look on her face. Run if you must, young one. But the Cirque Mort never truly lets go of those it claims. I stumbled backwards, tripping over the tent flap as I scrambled out into the relative brightness of the circus midway. But the brightness was different now. The neon light seemed harsher, more garish, and the laughter of the crowd sounded strained, almost desperate. The juggler I had seen earlier was still performing, but now his smile was wider, more manic, and the knives he tossed seemed to flash with a cold, cruel light. The magician's flowers looked wilted, their petals drooping like decaying flesh. The happy chaos I had perceived before was gone, replaced by a palpable sense of unease, a creeping dread that seeped into my bones. Everywhere I looked, I saw subtle shifts, distortions in the fabric of the circus. The clowns' painted smiles seemed to stretch too wide, their eyes hollow and black. The music, once jaunty and upbeat, now carried a discordant undercurrent, a mournful, almost pleading melody woven beneath the surface. I felt eyes on me, everywhere and nowhere at once. The crowd seemed to watch me, their smiles fixed, their gazes lingering just a fraction too long. A group of circus-goers, who had moments before been laughing, now stood silently, their faces pale, their eyes wide and unblinking as they stared in my direction. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to get out. This wasn't nostalgia. This was something else entirely, something dark and hungry. Madame Nocturna's words echoed in my mind. The Cirque Mort awakens. I started to walk, then to jog, then to run, pushing through the increasingly unsettling crowds. The drumming from inside or beneath the central tent intensified, pounding in my ears, resonating with my racing heartbeat. I reached the edge of the circus grounds, the exit gates looming like a fragile promise of escape. But as I drew closer, I saw that the gates were no longer rusted and open. They were now a solid, seamless wall of black iron, pulsating with the same dark energy as the tent. The neon lights cast long, distorted shadows that danced across the iron, making it appear to writhe and breathe. A cold dread settled over me. I was trapped. Turning back, I saw that the circus had changed. The tents, once brightly striped, were now a uniform, oppressive black. The midway, once a chaotic array of games and attractions, was now a silent, empty expanse, the only movement the slow, deliberate procession of the circus performers. They moved with a strange, unnatural grace, their faces devoid of emotion, their eyes fixed on me. The juggler led the procession. Behind him came the magician, his hands now producing not flowers, but skeletal hands that reached out, grasping at the air. The clowns, their painted smiles stretched into grotesque grins, danced and capered, their movements jerky and unsettling. The drumming intensified, resonating through my bones, pulling me towards the center of the circus. I felt a strange compulsion, a dark magnetism, drawing me back to Madame Nocturne's tent. My fear warred with an irresistible urge to surrender, to become part of the Cirque Dance Mort. As I was dragged closer, I saw that the central tent was no longer pulsating. It was now a gaping maw, a black hole in the fabric of reality, its edges shimmering with a dark, iridescent light. Madame Nocturne stood at its entrance, her eyes glowing with an unholy triumph. "Welcome," she said, her voice echoing through the silent midway. "You have joined the dance." The performers surrounded me, their movements becoming more frenzied, more desperate. The juggler's knives flashed, the magician's skeletal hands reached out, the clown's laughter echoed, hollow and mocking. The circus-goers' eyes burned into mine, their silent gazes filled with an ancient, malevolent knowledge. I felt my past, my regrets, my fears, being ripped from me, drawn into the gaping maw of the tent. The Cirque Dance Mort was feeding, consuming the shadows of my soul, leaving me hollow and empty. As I was pulled into the darkness, I saw a final image, Madame Nocturne's face, her amethyst eyes glowing with a cold, triumphant light. The drumming reached a crescendo, a thunderous roar that filled my senses, and then, silence. The Cirque Dance Mort had claimed another victim. The town, unaware, would continue to exist, the circus rolling in every year, its hunger never satiated, its dance never ending. The shadows would grow longer, the secrets deeper, the despair more profound, all feeding the dark heart of the Cirque Dance Mort. And within the maw of the tent, my own shadow would join the others, a silent dancer in the eternal, macabre ballet.
That was a truly captivating and unsettling story. Beyond the surface horror, I think there's a powerful metaphor at play here. The Cirque Dance Mort, this circus that feeds on despair and regrets, could represent the way the past can sometimes hold us captive, the way our unresolved issues can consume our present. Think about it, the protagonist returns home, drawn by nostalgia, but it's their unspoken burdens that make them vulnerable to the circus's dark magic. Madame Nocturne, with her knowing gaze, seems to see those inner shadows. And ultimately, the protagonist becomes a part of this cycle, their individual struggles contributing to the overall darkness. This story makes you consider what circuses might exist in our own lives, the negative thought patterns, the unresolved traumas, the lingering regrets that can drain our energy and hold us back. It's a reminder to confront those shadows before they have a chance to consume us. Until next time, think twice before visiting any strange, out-of-town circus. Hey, horror fans! If you enjoyed our chilling tale and want to keep the spine-tingling stories coming, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support keeps the darkness alive. Share this video with your friends, let's spread the fear together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a hair-raising moment. Join our community of thrill seekers and prepare for more eerie adventures. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay scared.